Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do timelines. This is pages 7 and 8 from the text version of the tutorial. And I'm looking at a completed scroller right now. And let's just play this and you can see that the planes function as they should after having done the timelines. And then I'll go back and delete them and redo them. So here we are flying along and 5 planes come out at once. Next 5 come out at the same time or come out again. And then this V form comes out and then we get another V form in the opposite order. And all of that is created using timelines. So after you've done your video tutorials, right now your planes just kind of come out at random. They don't come out in formations like that. And that's all because of using this timeline function. And the timeline thing is difficult to learn the very first time, and after that, it's just really amazing. So it takes some time. Take your time going through the timeline thing in order to figure out how to do it just right. And I'm going to show you how to do that with this video. So first of all, we're going to get rid of this timeline. It's almost painful, but here we go. Right click and delete. So you don't need to do that because you already don't have it. Okay, so now to create the timeline, you are going to have to make some changes to some of your objects, and that's because within the video tutorial, you've got a controller that is called control enemy, and it creates your items kind of at random. And also, when your enemies leave the page, they regenerate themselves again. So watch this. Here's enemy 1. Here's the step event. If it goes past the top or the bottom of the room, rather, it's going to just destroy itself. And you can see here there's no code to generate a new plane or to fly back up above the room and start over or anything like that. All you should have in your enemies now is if it goes out of the room, then delete it. And if you need help with that, just ask. But you're going to need to edit all your planes this way to stop all the randomness from coming on the screen. Okay, so now we want to make the timeline. And so to add a timeline, we're going to just right click and create a timeline. Now here you see the framework of the timeline and all kinds of stuff goes on here. And we're going to just call this, let's see, I think TML formation 1, TML underscore formation 1. And we'll refer to the timeline that way later on. Okay, so let me make sure I get all these steps just right. And this looks good. Okay, so now we need to make moments in the timeline, and the moments occur here. So when the game starts, we're starting at moment 0. And when we add moments, we add times that we want things to happen. And remember, the game is set to 30 steps per second. So 30 equals 1 second. So we're going to put in a 60, a new moment with 60. So we hit add, and we type in 60, and that means 2 seconds. You would think it meant 1 minute, like one thing per second, but no, it means 2 seconds. 30 steps per second, or 1/30th of a second per step. And so 60 of them would be 2 seconds. Okay, so we hit OK. And we're going to create an enemy, a line of enemy planes, the green ones. And to do that, you're going to recognize some of this. A lot of, actually, maybe all the actions that we can do, we can now do in a timeline. So let's create an enemy 1. So there's enemy 1. And we want these to appear above the room and then fly into the room. And so to be above the room, it needs to have a negative y value. So we put in a -65 for y. And for this x value, we're going to do 240. You could put variables in here, and that's an interesting thing to contemplate. But for now, we're just going to do it according to the directions. So we hit OK, and that's our new enemy. Now, we need 4 more of these. So rather than just create all of these with this tool again, I'm going to just go here and hit Control C and then Control V, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now all of these exist, but they all start in the same exact spot. So the next one I want to be in 280. And the next one, I think we're going to add 40 each time. So 280 plus 40 is 320. This one is 360. And the last one is 400. Okay, so now our timeline has one step, and it happens at 2 seconds, and these 5 planes come on. Let's hit OK. Now we've tied the game to this timeline already, and in the tutorial we wouldn't have done that yet. So let's look at the control object and see where it says timeline, set timeline undefined. Now we'd need to create this. So let's just delete this because we wouldn't have it in the directions yet. Whoops, wrong one. Let's try that again. Delete. Okay. Now we need to put in a timeline. So we'll put the timeline in. Okay, so this is about timing. This one is timeline. If we float over it, we should see set timeline. So we'll drag that in. Which timeline? Which one are we going to use? We only have one right now, so we pick that one. Position 0, start immediately, don't loop. Let's change that to loop. And that should be interesting. Let's see what happens if it loops just with this one moment. And let's play it. Okay, 1,000, 1,000. Here comes 5 planes. Here comes 5 more planes. Here comes 5 more planes. Here comes 5 more planes. So that loop, that timeline is looping, and it's just going to give us more and more and more of these planes. Okay, so the timeline name up here is what we referenced in here, and when we open the timeline, it's the only one that appeared in our list. So now the timeline is working, and now we want to add some more moments. So we add the timeline, or go back to the timeline again. Now we want to duplicate this to 180. So first we're going to do this at 2 seconds, and then we want to do it at 6 seconds. So we're going to duplicate this moment, and all of this will get duplicated with it. So we're going to duplicate step 60, or this first moment. Okay, so duplicate from moment 60 to moment 60. We only want to duplicate this one, but we don't want to put it at 61. We want to put it at 180. And now you can see it's going to do this whole timeline. We could play it again, but we don't really need to do that because we already know what will happen. Okay, so now we want to duplicate both moments, 60 and 180, to 270, and that will give us 4 moments. So watch what happens here. Here's step 60, and we're going to duplicate. So we're going to duplicate from step 60 all the way up to 180, which really just means 2. But we're going to copy a whole set of that up to at 270. So when we go 270, some people think that it'll just be one moment, but it copies the whole form of it. So we get a 270 and a 390. So 60 and 180 both look like this, and so do 270 and 390. But now we want to change the step 270 form. So we're going to do, let's see here. We're going to do enemy 2s, or the orange plane, in the 2nd and 4th set. And we're going to change the first and last y values. Okay, so the first one, the y value, is going to be, let's see, minus 165. That's putting it back a little further. And so is the last one, minus 165. Okay, now I think the middle one, let's see, I can't remember if it stays. I think it stays. Okay, 2 and 4 are going to be minus 110. So let's change that, minus 110. And the 4th one. Okay, so right now, to run that, we're going to see that it forms a form of green planes and a V formation. Okay, so Here comes our first line, then we're going to get a second line. And the next line should be in a V formation now. And there it is. Look at that nice V formation. Okay, now the second and fourth plane, though, we don't want to have be the green ones. We want to have orange ones. And so those are enemy number 2. So we're going to choose that. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to move on to 390. Okay, so 1 and 5 are going to be, let's see, 1 and 5 are going to be minus 65. So for 390, we're going to change, oh, that one's already okay. And then I guess all of these are still that way. Okay. So 1 and 5 are going to be minus 65. And then 2 and 4 are going to be minus 110. So we're going to go up here. Remember, we're changing the Y values, not the X values. If you do it and your formation ends up looking weird, go back and check and make sure you changed the Y values, not the X values. Okay, so the middle one is going to be minus 165. Okay, and then let's see, I think we're going to change all of these to enemy number 2. So let's change that to enemy number 2. All of them are enemy number 2. Okay, now let's play it and see what happens. Wave 1. There's moment 180. There's our 270 with 2 shooters. And there's 390 with all the orange shooters. Followed again by the loop of the other green planes. Cool. Okay, now at 480, we're going to make a new moment. And that's going to be both the gray, it's going to control both the gray planes and the blue planes. So first we add a moment, 480. And in the first slot, we're going to do a random chance to start choosing which one we want. I don't even remember where that is. Let's see. There we go. So we're going to do this with a chance of 1 to 5. So just put a 5 in that box. So first, on a chance of 1 to 5, we're going to put an enemy 3. So now we need a create event for enemy number 3. And you might remember this, but we're going to use code to randomly generate where it comes in the screen. So random room underscore width. And it needs to start above our screen, our play screen. So it's minus 65 again. Now we need an else. So let's see. Control. This is the else button. And what does this do? This means if this does have a chance of 1 in 5 and it does launch this plane, then we're not going to do this else. But if it does not launch this plane, we want it to do something else. So now we want to do a chance of 1 in 3. to launch enemy number 2. So bring that down here. We got to put a 3 in there. With a chance of 1 out of 3, create an instance of enemy number 2. So come back up here. Here's enemy number 2. Again, random room width. Now room width is a variable that's built into the game. So whatever size you made your room, that's what the room width is. And random is a function. The random chooses a value between 0 and the width of the room, or whatever number you put in there. If you put 50 in here, it would choose a number between 1 and 50. And remember, minus 65. Okay. And let's see, I think we've got to put one more in there. So we're going to put another else. And we're going to put enemy number 4. Okay, now enemy number 4 is a little bit different problem, but with the width is the same. So let's put that in, random room width. But the blue plane starts at the bottom and comes up. So we've got to have something to do with how do we figure out how tall that is? How positive of a y do we need? So it's the height of the room plus some. So we're going to do room height plus 65. That'll be past the bottom of the screen, and then it can start down there and fly upwards. Okay, let me review my notes. And yes, then we need to make copies of all of these. So first of all, we're going to duplicate 480 to 481. And this is a really interesting operation we're about to do. And so just watch the whole process. So step 40. So we're going to duplicate from 480 to 480 to 481. Just do it. There we go. Now we're going to duplicate again, but this time we're going to duplicate both of these. So we duplicate from 480 to 481. And we want to put those in at 482. This is temporary. You'll see what happens in a minute. Okay, now we got 4 of those. All right, now we want to duplicate all 4 of these. So duplicate 480 to 483, 484. And I think we want to do it one more time. So from 480 to 487. Those at 488. Okay, just checking to make sure I got this all set. Yep. Now we want to spread these out. Right now they'll happen every 30th of a second, and that's not what we want. We want to spread them out a ton. Okay, so we want to spread these. So we're going to spread 480 to 495. So spread 480 to 495. And we're going to do a percentage of 3,000. It's going to give us a nice spread between each of those events. So we'll hit OK. And you can see all these numbers changed by a lot. So now there's 30 steps between each event, or 30 times. 3,000 is the same as 30 times. Okay, so we already have the timeline event in our control event in our version of the game made from the demo, but yours is going to maybe have the controller enemy. So it's the same exact thing. You're going to put the set the timeline in your controller enemy. Remember, you'll have controller enemy down here or something, but what you're going to put in is you're going to, in the create event of your enemy controller, you're just going to drop one of these timeline things in from here, drop it in, and you're going to set it to the timeline name we have, leave the rest like this except for the loop, change it to loop. Okay, now let's see how this runs. Okay, there's our first wave, our second wave, There's our first V formation. Here comes our second V formation. There's a gray plane at random, and an orange plane at random, and a blue plane at random, and another blue plane. All of these are currently just coming up at random. So that fills up our screen a little bit. Now we're back to our green wave. So now here comes another wave, and now you can see we're on the second loop of our formations. Here comes our orange formation. Okay, here comes the random planes again, and that'll just keep going until you die, or you turn it off or something. Okay, so that's it for the timelines, and now I have one more note for you. I want you to test something after you've gotten this far, and I want you to notice something about how your keyboard works with the fire button. Right now you're using space to fire, so if you hit the space button, a bullet comes out. If you're in motion and you hit the space button, a bullet comes out, right? That worked left and right. Up works, down works. Now let's try up and to the right. So hit the up button and the right button at the same time, and we still get a bullet. And down and to the right, we get a bullet. Okay, down and to the left, we get a bullet. But what happens when we go up and to the right? Let's see if this works. Up and to the right, it won't fire. So give that a shot on your machine just to show that it doesn't work. You can't fire when you're moving up and to the left. And that's because of a keyboard issue that's just built into keyboards, that if you touch a bunch of buttons at the same time or hold them down at the same time, it can't read all the different possibilities. So what I do is I change the fire button from the space bar to the control button. So watch how easy this is. We're going to go into the object My Plane, and here's the space button that we use to fire. We can see we've got actions in there. We could create a whole new thing and put all that in there, but we don't have to. We can right click on the space bar, come down here and go to Change Event, go down to Keyboard, go up to Control, and it just changes everything from space to control. Now, watch when we play. Go over here a little bit, up and to the left, and then now, oh, wrong button. Let's try that again. This guys. Okay, ready? Up and to the left, and it's firing. So now it will fire in every direction, including all the diagonal directions. So the control button is a better choice for the fire button. And if you make a game that has 2 players, you kind of run into similar issues like this because so many buttons are being pressed on the same keyboard. Okay, that's it. You finished the scrolling shooter tutorial set.